Hi guys, I'm back from another hibernation. So, we've discussed a lot of characters so far for this hypothetical reboot. We've redesigned all 6 of the Winx, 3 members of the Trix, and the 4 specialists that we have in Season 1, even Lucy and Murda. So, I thought it was time for us to see the villain looming over them all, Lord Darkar. Okay, so when I finished drawing Darkar, I realized that the OBS messed up and the end of the coloring process wasn't recorded, but I felt really bad because it's been so long since I posted, so I decided to also draw this little pixie to give you guys an idea of what they look like in my rewrite. Whew, okay, now into the story. Centuries ago, from the same tree that bore thousands of pixies before him, a new addition to the family was about to emerge. It had been rough for the pixie civilization for a while now. The world around them that they loved so dearly had begun to become incredibly hostile to their species. A new kind of predator had come around the area where most of the pixie villages were located, and their population had greatly suffered. More recently, though, there had been a drought. The crops that the pixies needed to survive had dwindled quickly over the winter after a meager harvest the past fall, and life was hard for the little creatures of the forest. However, this yearly event, this annual month-long celebration leading up to the ceremony, in which the matriarch induces the Tree of Life to bestow a new baby to the community, was the saving grace that they were able to cling to hold on to any hope for the future. But it had been such a harsh year, and the tree simply did not have the strength it needed to provide for this new creature, and when it emerged from its flower bud womb, it was still. In the past, there had been some who had emerged from the tree weaker than others, but they had always taken their first breath and opened their wings to the sky, and eventually were able to join the village like any other. There had never been a pixie who simply came out, gone. The matriarch at the time tried to use her magic to awaken him as the rest of the festival waited in anticipation, but the little pixie didn't move. Panic and fear began to spread through the crowd. Whispers of what this could mean for their future turned into shouts that this was the end of their civilization. The matriarch grew desperate to quiet their pleas, and she tried once more to awaken the stillborn pixie. She used all her might and strained to get the spell to take hold, and at last the little one began to stir. The crowd grew silent and hopeful eyes returned to the scene before them, but something wasn't right. The magic that the matriarch had used had become corrupted, as one should never try to raise the dead. It swirled and bubbled around the little pixie and began to twist its form into a horrifying sight. The creature that loomed over them now began to siphon the magic straight from the pixie matriarch until she could no longer fly and fell to the dirt below, dead. There were more casualties as the monster swept through the crowd, growing larger and stronger with each pixie he consumed. A few tried to fight back. They began to do some damage, but they knew their numbers just weren't enough. Then, in an instant, it took off into the sky. This event shook the pixie village to its core. That's right. The little pixie you just saw is only an idea of what could have been. In reality, his fate was never to live with that face. After some time passed, and the creature, which had come to call itself Lord Darkar, had finally been subdued and imprisoned, the remaining groups of pixies reunited into one, and relocated their entire species. They were helped by a group of powerful nature fairies to relocate their Tree of Life and plant it in their new sanctuary. From then on, the pixies devoted themselves to the upkeep of the tree, as it was a bit harder for it to flourish in a village under a lake. Now, the birth of a pixie has become a much rarer occurrence, but it is ensured when they emerge, they will be safe and healthy. The Winx would find all of this out from Farragonda and her library. But with all of this information on him, shouldn't there be some record of how he was defeated the first time, they ask? And there is. Darkar was so powerful he needed to be locked away by the almighty Mother Dragon herself. She was the one to put him in a magical sleep, trapped inside a crystalline prison. This, in fact, was the first time one of these crystals was utilized. And so, since the spell was spur of the moment and had not been perfected yet, her continued absence for so long, without even a fairy of the dragon flame to be her representative, the spell that has kept him trapped for so long had become weak. He must have awoken when he felt her magic return upon Bloom's arrival and was able to brute force his way out of prison. Hearing all of this, the tragedy that was Darkar's creation, the Winx can't help but to be shocked and feel kind of bad for him. Except for Aisha. This is when she tells them what happened to get her sent away to Althea for protection. How he and the shadow monsters at his call, made from siphoning the magic of the wild forest creatures, broke through the barrier of the Pixie village. In Aisha's video, I go over the full story, so definitely watch her redesign to hear the details. But know that Darkar is the reason she was forced to live under her fake name, Layla, guardian fairy of Amethyst Lake, for so long. So, the little creature you saw in the beginning of this video was only the beginning of this looming nightmare. His sapphire blue skin deepened to the milky darkness of the night sky, glistening with an unknowable shimmer like the stars of a far-off galaxy. His leaf-like wings torn and withered until all that was left were spines, his features more bug-like, his body now covered in a deep crimson exoskeleton, his torso swathed in twisted, gnarled roots, as if the tree of life itself was trying to reach into his heart and stop the corruption. I've said before how I really hate Darkar's original design, like it's just so nothing. But I still wanted my redesign to be somewhat recognizable as him, so I tried to work with its more significant elements. These being the general silhouette, like his tiny little waist and broad spiky shoulders, his colors, and his inhuman feeling appearance, which I did by making him a big buggy tree guy instead of like a haunted suit of armor or whatever he was supposed to be. I also think that his backstory makes sense if we keep calling him the Shadow Phoenix, because not only is his skin like shadows, but he's also a creature that was born from death, and later returned from a death-like sleep, though he isn't the only one we'll see do this. Over the course of the first season, Darkar's goal was always to acquire the Dragon Flame, to have control over the magic powerful enough to seal him away for so long. And his main plan for how to do this is to capture the fairy that wields it. His shadow creatures are great for muscle, but they lack the ability to think for themselves, so he wishes to employ an underling with a brain. The one he chooses to be his deputy must be cold, cunning, and willing to get their hands dirty. He finally settled on a powerful young witch with piercing blue eyes. Icy's habit of self-isolation made her an easy target for Darkar's manipulation, but he was still surprised at how easy it was to convince her to join him. But she wants to be able to get her new friends in on the plan. After all, their public image would be a valuable shield if suspicions were raised. Reluctantly, the Dark Pixie agreed, but Icy would have to be the one to recruit them, and she did. With promises of being royalty under Darkar's reign, the descendants of the three ancestral witches were now officially working on the side of evil. However, the Fairy of the Dragon Flame is really starting to get the hang of her magic and is growing more powerful day by day. With her friends by her side and help from the specialists, it's starting to seem like the Trix won't have a chance at overpowering her anymore. So Icy decides it's time for a new approach. That's when Bloom's favorite professor gets kidnapped. Professor Avalon is a history teacher at Althea, and in my reboot, he is not actually a magic user. Instead of being a paladin, he's simply a scholar, and he is a very respected professor at the school. It's not uncommon for students to have crushes on their teachers, especially when it's a subject they're both passionate about and the teacher is charismatic and handsome. However, the problem in OG Winx arises when the story starts to treat it like Bloom's feelings toward Avalon are anything more than a crush, and that there is a possibility of him actually reciprocating them. Sky even starts getting jealous of how much time the two are spending together and how close they seem to have gotten.
And it would be nice if you'd quit hanging up on me when I call.
Sorry, but I was in Avalon's class. I couldn't talk then.
But you always take calls from him, don't you?
He must be your true soulmate.
Well, one of these days you should try to be my soulmate.
No, I wouldn't want to come between you and Avalon.
Listen, Sky, the point is I trust him.
Well, you shouldn't. I find it odd that he helps you and no one else.
Listen, Sky, do me a favor. Hang up the phone.
Like, that's weird, dude. He's her teacher. Especially because in my rewrite, the students are college age, but in the original show, they're mid-teens, in high school. Then, in the show, it turns out it wasn't even him at all, so all of these feelings Bloom is having, thinking she's got a deep connection with this man, are not only inappropriate, but happening with some random lackey working for Darkar. I know some people ship her with Valtor, but I don't think anyone liked that weird thing she had going on with Avalon. Anyways, in my rewrite, she still has a little crush and fawns over him, but of course he would make it clear that he harbors nothing of the sort towards her, and they would have much more of a mentor and apprentice kind of relationship, as he tutors her on magics and Domino in particular. When he gets kidnapped, there would be no weird replacement for him. If one random goon is able to so accurately pass as a human, it makes me feel kind of weird about having them be cannon fodder for the Season 1 Winx Club that is maybe not as great at fighting as they are in later seasons. Also, Darkar and the Trix want Bloom to notice he's gone. That's the whole point, that she goes to investigate and tries to save him. And since at this point in the story, she's been fighting with Sky about whether or not she can handle the battle on the horizon, she falls right into the trap. Now, captured, humbled, and about to have her magic corrupted, she asks how a pixie, a creature created directly from the Mother Dragon's magic, can be such a monster. To which Darkar replies incredulously, "She did not make me. The Mother Dragon's magic does not flow through any pixie's wings." Back at Althea, the Winx have fully adopted Aisha into their group, but now they're missing Bloom. They decide that they need to go to Farragonda for help this time, and she decides that now might be a good time to actually do something. So they set off to go find Bloom. But when they find her, she's under Darkar's magical influence. Bloom's fairy form has been affected by the corruption, the projection of her magical self now darkened and tattered. Her hair has grown longer, her nails black and sharp, and her eyes glowing with the same golden light as Darkar's. In an attempt to turn her back to normal, Sky tries to give True Love's kiss, which Bloom had told him about long ago in a conversation about Earth culture and the fairy tales she grew up with. But because she's evil right now, he doesn't actually get to kiss her. What he does manage to do, though, is make a very dramatic and heartfelt speech so that Stella can manage to cast a difficult spell that uses her light to banish the shadows Darkar has inflicted upon her heart. Darkar is knocked the hell out when Bloom is turned back to normal, and we see the dragon flame shown at its full power for the first time. And then Farragonda, Griffin, and Saladin pull up on him and kill the bitch because they know kids shouldn't have to do that. But the three of them are not exactly fazed by it. I love the fact that in the original, Darkar fucking dies.
And Darkar is no more.
But then I think it's kind of weird they never acknowledged that they killed a guy, even if he was evil. And that's the story of Darkar's rise and fall within Season 1 of my rewrite. Darkar in the original show is so boring to me. I really wanted to make him more compelling. And I think his new backstory works really well for that. Having the villain of Season 1 be more so a consequence of the world itself, rather than just a big scary, ancient guy, works better, because we're still new to this world and still learning what it's about and what its history is. Darkar being the first villain of the show also works to bring the Trix down to their most maniacal point through an actual character arc instead of just starting there for seemingly no reason. He's the reason they're fully pushed to embrace the idea of following in their ancestors' footsteps towards evil by basically being their, mentor. This leaves them open to discovering what it means to be evil on their own terms when he bites the dust, and allows them to decide what they really want their goal to be, which we'll see in future seasons. Okay, I'll see you guys next time. Bye!